welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have Andy Wood. How are you?
Hey, brother, how are you? Good to be back.
I know, right? We had a little miniature, little session before, but it's good to have a little full one today. You've been busy though. You were super busy,
Yeah, the
and so
running joke with me and a friend of mine, Travis Toy, we always say we're busier than a Brad Paisley solo, and that is freaking busy.
well, I'm glad you're on. I want to introduce people that don't know you. I mean, obviously, guitar geeks like me know you and enjoy you. I mean, but for the uninitiated, you are a fantastic guitar player, but you're a little different than most guitar players because your background's a little bit different. You're not an average electric guitar background because you obviously have different string instruments in your background. So your sound is a little bit different, a lot more eclectic, kind of fun. Your albums are a lot more mixed, not just a solid rock album. Got a little country, you got a little, I want to say like Donny Osmond, a little country, a little, but you got a little of everything in there. Want to touch on just a little bit of your early playing that made you that type of a guitar player?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you said, it's interesting to be thought of, and I guess I mean I really am. It's like an electric guitar player. I still kind of consider myself a mandolin player first. That just can't get a mandolin gig. But in all seriousness, no, my granddad was really he's the catalyst. He's the one that did everything, got it all started when I was about 5 or 6. My cousin and I, we didn't have any siblings. It was just my cousin and myself for our generation for a long time. And granddad was a construction worker, and we didn't come from a ton of money, and so there was instruments around the house, and that's what we did. He got us started playing a lot of Bill Monroe tunes, Flat and Scruggs, and Del McCurry, and later on it was Newgrass Revival and Tony Rice and Mark O'Connor and stuff like that. Very, very heavy into the fiddle tune bluegrass world, like far before it was popular. Like now, if you go to Merle Fest, thanks to
Yeah,
Sierra Hull and Allison Krauss and Billy Strings, now you go to Merle Fest, there's 200,000 people there. We used to go when we were kids, 10, 11 years old, and there would be 4,000 people there. It was just a totally different scene back then. I think a lot of that too, not to sidestep the topic too much, a lot of that was
do
like when Oh
whatever you
Brother
want.
Where Art Thou? Remember that film?
Oh, I totally
Yeah,
remember
it's like
that.
that kind of
Soggy Bottom
popped the lid
Boys,
off of
right?
that. Yeah, yeah. It
Great
popped the
concept
lid
song.
off of the popularity of bluegrass and Americana music. So, that was the thing. And the way I ended up on the electric guitar is due to buying a Mark O'Connor album that was called Mark O'Connor and the New Nashville Cats. I had bought it because Sam Bush and Bela Fleck and Jerry Douglas were playing on it, and those are some of my favorite players.
Yeah,
Obviously not guitar players, mandolin, acoustic, banjo, dobro,
string
stuff like
players. I
that.
love Bella.
Yeah, yeah, great players. So on that album, track number 4 was a tune called "Pick It Apart," and I heard this insane Telecaster solo, and that made me want to be an electric guitar player. And that's was first time I heard Brent Mason, and it was like all I needed to be like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And so my life's goal was to be able to play the "Pick It Apart" solo. And so here we are. I've had a great career in metal and rock, and my music is I don't ever really know how to label it. I guess it's like pseudo fusion, where it's like there's rock elements, there's fusion elements, and then there's some bluegrass country elements. I think most commonly people are like, oh, it's got that Dixie Dregs kind of vibe. I
I
get
dig that.
compared to
Yeah,
like that scene, you know what I mean, where it's
it's a
like
compliment.
it's yeah, it's
It's a
fusion,
great.
but with a southern drawl on it.
Yeah. It's like smart rock. And I say rock, to me, rock is not just like one type of music because I like a lot. Obviously, everybody watches my channel. To me, rock is like just like it's all encompassing. If you just kind of turn it up, put some energy into it, you know what I mean? There's a fine
Mhm.
line between like country. Like I love old country, so like a lot of your influences are the older country, where it's the
Yeah.
mandolin and it's the banjo, and the guitar sounds totally different than now. I mean, talking about it the other day, I think really around the time when you had the same producer that's doing Def Leppard and Shania Twain is
Mutt
really
Lang.
when country, yeah, yes, but for people that aren't aware, initiated, that's really where the kind of the line started to blur with that rock. Because I think a lot of the producers, whereas those two didn't sound a lot alike, they're things similar, but the country music got a little more commercial sounding. I think it
Yeah, I
changed.
mean, look at it this way from a guitar nerd standpoint. If you like things like Giant and Whitesnake.
Right.
The guitarist was a guy named Dan Huff, and well, I mean, like Dan was a session player that did some of the
Right.
Whitesnake remixes and stuff. Anyways, he played Giant and shred guitar player, like nuts shred chops. He moved to Nashville and was doing sessions, so
Mhm.
he was playing on Clint Black records and Faith Hill records, and now he's one of the most successful producers in the game, producing things like Rascal Flatts and Keith Urban and all that stuff. He's one of my all-time favorite guitar players. Like Dan is one of the sassiest, tone havingest
Really.
six string slingers. I mean, he's like to me, he's at my round table. Like we've all got our guys that sit, you know. Like some people are Marty Friedman guys, some people are so and so guys. Like Dan is like he's one of like my guys, like round table of the elite kind of,
I'm
you
gonna
know.
have to go back and
And
listen to
you,
him
you
some
know,
more.
so
Listen to him some more.
Mutt was hiring Dan to play on
Mhm.
those records. He was play, you know, and him and Brent were playing on those records. So
Totally makes sense. But you have the old school sound, and you take it with you now and everything. So that's why your
yeah,
music is so fun. It's like your album is like each song you're like, I mean, you kind of divide up a little bit, but man, it's so fun because you just kind of don't know what you're gonna get each song. You got a little of everything in there, you know, kind of like the
yeah,
kitchen sink,
yeah.
you know, of music.
That's an evolution, right? Like as a younger player, my first album was a little more segregated towards like, okay, this is the seven string metal song. And then the
Hmm.
next track would be like, okay, this is this kind of song. Getting older and just being on the journey of music and life, you know, as I've changed and embraced where I'm from and, you know, the kind of life that I've had, I started pulling those influences into the music. So as I changed, the music reflected that, you know? And
Hmm.
so Junktown is the ironically the most successful album I've done. And also that's the one where I was pulling in the different influences and not trying to segregate everything out into genres. Like
Hmm.
this has to be the metal song. This has to be the ballad. Like Junktown's just like it's all they're all in each song, like all
Yes,
the influences. And I feel like that's where I really got comfortable with my identity musically. And I feel like, yeah, I know what my sound is.
I think that you're right. I mean, it's totally as a fan listening to you, I feel it's definitely a home run because to me, I'm in a mood for music. I usually put on different types of music. You kind of feel like a mood. I just don't know what I want to listen to. There's only a handful of groups I can do that to. You're one of them. You know, I want to listen to something. My brain really needs some music. Andy Wood's going to fill it because you know you kind of go on different adventures. You know, you're not going to be like stuck in one thing. You know,
Yeah, yeah, that's really important to me. I like so many different styles of music, so yeah, it's definitely an important
so obviously
aspect of my playing.
songwriting's changed for you, right?
Yeah, songwriting is evolved too because I've been, you know, a co-writer on songs with other artists, and I now, you know, in my 20s I was in a rock band called Down From Up, and we were touring with like Seven Dust and Drowning Pool and those kind of like hard rock kind of scenes. Again, it was like more about shredding, you know, kind of not one dimensional, but one dimensional, you know. Like I was touring with a Diesel and a couple of 412s, you know. This is like that kind of thing, right?
You're committed to a sound.
Yeah, committed, right? So, you know, getting older, revisiting things. You know, there's a fantastic artist in Nashville named Dave Kennedy, and he's if I'm not mistaken, he's a writer for Warner Brothers or Chapel or one of those labels. You know, I can't recall. Successful songwriter. He's got an amazing voice. It's really in that kind of Chris Stapleton Jelly Roll kind of lane. And we have a band called the Kennedy Wood Band, and it's a really bluesy, like not traditional, but like if you like things like Mark Broussard and Stapleton and those, you know, Dave Cobb records, you know,
Mhm.
that's the kind of music that we make. And so my focus in as a songwriter in that kind of environment is about strong melodies and incorporating a creative yet strong melody over a very simple chord progression. That presents a different kind of challenge, right? Like certain songs like you know, Forgotten Secrets or Junktown or whatever, like they've got more chord changes and more
Mhm.
interesting rhythmic things going on. There's a lot going on. So from a soloing standpoint, you've got a lot to sink your teeth into. The opposites to be true in those genres, like what Kennedy Wood Band does. And it's because the chord progressions are so simple. You have to really think on a melodic standpoint. And I think, you see the brilliance of guys like Dwayne Allman in an Allman Brothers scenario, like
Right.
how he could play, how he could solo over Whipping Post, which is literally A minor
Right.
indefinitely for three minutes. Solo over that, yeah, yet never run out of ideas and never run out of really good melodies, right, and never run out of fire. So that has helped me evolve as a songwriter a lot, and obviously being stuck at home for 2.5 years or 2 years during a pandemic, I wrote about 53, 52, 53 demos, and now we're finishing
Wow.
up the record. Yeah, so this new record that I'm getting ready to finish up, hopefully, we're looking at a June release. The working title for the record is Charisma, and the new record is interesting because I didn't allow myself to write quote unquote the guitar solo. So this is instrumental music, right? But we can all agree when you hear Summer Song by Satriani or Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson that we
Right.
know the melody of the song, but we also know where they start soloing, right? They solo like later.
Hmm.
So one of the things that was interesting about this record that I'm doing is I call it my pandemic record, right? Um, I didn't allow myself to write any hot shot parts. I wrote 52 songs that were just melodies and verses and choruses.
Okay.
And when it come time to cull out all the different songs, I was able to find the 10 with the strongest melodies, right? Because it wasn't like I was trying to serve the purpose of, ooh, this has got the sickest solo. I've got to track that one, right? I wasn't playing towards my approach of like, trying to write something flashy for the sake of flash and then it
Hmm.
not having a strong melody to anchor it. Like this record's really about tone and melodies and and storytelling from an instrumental music. Like there's some cinematic aspects to it. So it's got a different perspective on it, and
That's
some
cool
really cool
actually.
guest solos and some really killer guest solos on it. So
Oh,
so
really?
they're
That's cool.
I'll
Cool.
say this, like Brent Mason is doing a guest solo and it's like when he sent it to me, I just laughed. It's so good, so hot.
That's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, and I think I agree with you. I think with Satriani and groups that songs have a melody, it can be much more actually enjoyable as a listener to hear over and over again. I mean, because sometimes if you're doing too much guitar, too much shredding in the solo, you kind of jump to shark really in a way that for a fan to listen to all the time, it's almost overwhelming. Like Ingve. Ingve is a great guitar player, but I can't sit and listen to Ingve like that. Like I would listen to you. You know,
Like
it can be just
I,
too much.
yeah, I love old Ingve. I do. But in a sense, I know what you're saying. Like there's a difference for me when I go to listen to a player, I grab a
Hmm.
song or two versus if I'm going to listen to an entire album as a
Right.
complete thought,
Right.
you know. There's a really good mantra that I've tried to hold myself to, ironically from the Disney family movie The Incredibles, where
Yeah.
they're all superheroes.
Oh yeah.
So I love that. Like I love Sam Jackson, right? And he's
Yeah.
Frozone or whatever. But in that movie, the villain is this little kid, and he grows up and he becomes the villain that wears the black and white outfit. And he
Hmm.
says, "I'm going to make everybody super because when everyone's super, no one's super." And so I've had that like as the mantra for this new record. If everything that I play is over the top technique and over the top
Yeah.
insane shred, then nothing's gonna be important. So
Right.
I've built these 10 songs, and this album has a cover on it, which is rare for me. I don't do a lot of covers. I'm doing a cover of saying that I kind of took the Alice in Chains Rooster tune and kind of turned it into a Jeff Beck Hendrix inspired approach to the song.
Hmm.
And I love the double entendre with it being a guy that's a Telecaster chicken picking kind of guy. A song about a rooster is kind of it kind of checks all my boxes, right? And I've really been in love with this new record using a lot of really gnarly, ugly tones.
Hmm.
I like the pretty slick hero guitar tones. Obviously, with if you listen to my records, that's the kind of thing I go for. But on this new record, I'm using a lot of things that are interesting. Like one's laying on my desk right here. It's this like Fuzzy Drive, and it's just really gnarly and ugly, big muff kind of thing. And then I've got another Octafuzz over here. I'm just really enjoying those kind of tones on this new record, just to kind of broaden the sonic palette, to
Yeah.
make the whole album fun. Again, going back to that thing that you've been talking about, make it a listenable experience for an hour. You're not something that you're like, hey, I'm going to listen to the hot song and then I'm out. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah.
You actually, yeah, because you only did I don't know how many of the covers you've done. I think well, Amazing Grace you had on one of your early albums, but you don't really have a lot of.
I have a cover of a Bill Monroe tune on one of my first records that my granddad's playing with me on one of
That's
those first records.
that's
So that's
cool.
yeah,
That's
that's
pretty
a really
cool.
important one. And then I have a cover of "Fool in the Rain" by Led
Hmm.
Zeppelin on the Truth and Lie double record.
Yeah.
I did that as an instrumental acoustic, like, kind of thing, and it came out really cool. But yeah, in general, I don't really do a ton of covers in on my albums, and so obviously taking this approach was inspired a lot by spending a lot of time with Andy Timmons. He's been a
Yeah.
big mentor and kind of a Jedi master to me for about 5 years now, and watching the joy uh, come across the audience and across Andy when he plays things like the Beatles tunes or the Queen stuff. It's like
Yeah.
it's really engaging on a magical level, and it's really inspirational. And I started taking inventory of my favorite guitar players, and I was like, dude, Jeff Beck, his career is built on covers. Like, it's okay to play covers, you just got to make it your own thing. And
Right.
so that's why I wanted to reach into an again, kind of, I love irony, like I love it,
Hmm.
and I think Alice in Chains is doing an instrumental Guitar Hero version of an Alice in Chains song is very ironic, because that was a band that was like at the pinnacle of guitar solos aren't that cool. You know what I mean? It's like in the
Yeah.
90s, like the flannel era, there was not, it was the death of spandex. It was like, so I loved that kind of ironic twist on it. And choosing that tune was an interesting vehicle, also harmonically, because it's got a what I like to call an ambiguous third, right? Like if you're playing an F sharp, you have a B flat note, but then the chord progression is like F sharp major to A major. So you have this ambiguous third in there. So it's just harmonically rewarding. And when we did it on Shiprocked, this cruise gig I just did, we debuted the tune there, a very fitting environment, because the audience is there for rock and metal. And so I knew it was going to be okay and accepted by the public when the crowd was literally singing the chorus louder than we were on stage. It was really like a magical moment. I look over at Ben's playing bass with me, Ben Eller, and we just kind of look at each other and like, all right, it works. You feel like you're a gladiator at Rome when you throw stuff out for the first time. You're like,
I,
okay, the public will accept this. This is okay.
you guys had a lot to do though for that show too. There's a clip. There's clips online. I know you have it Patreon, but I haven't seen that. But you do have some clips online though, like a little collage or montage rather of the show of cameras.
There's
It's pretty fun
actually
actually.
4 shows. Yeah, it was actually 4 shows. So I've been hired by Shiprocked. I love those guys that put it on, and I've been hired by them for years. This is like my seventh or eighth one, but I'm always hired as a, like instrumental guy. I like usually the only guy that does like kind of instrumental music on the cruise, and I've always been a part of it as an artist. This year they brought me in to kind of man the helm on the musical director side of Stowaways, which is like their mega jam that they
Yeah.
do. They have all these different artists from all these different bands, and they all choose different covers based upon the theme of the cruise or whatever.
Hmm.
So it was really fun, and it was an absolute ton of work. Like me and Ben and Andy Campbell, the drummer, we prepped for about 6 or 7 weeks, um, being able to play every song, and know every part and every change of everything, going into it. That way, that any artist could come in or out that may want to play on the tune, and like we knew that that the pieces would
Yeah.
always fit together. But it was really really cool. There was so many great moments of it. Obviously, there's a guy that I say obviously, but it's obvious to me. I guess it's not obvious to the listener. For me, a highlight. There's a guy named Keith Wallen who has a great solo career now, but he also plays and sings in Breaking Benjamin.
Mhm.
Keith is a fellow Knoxvillian, and we kind of grew up at the same time and playing in the in the same scene and stuff. So when he came out to do Pretender, we got to hug each other and be like, man, this is like 15 years overdue to be on stage together at at a festival or whatever. So that was a really special moment for me. And then there's so many great fans, not fans, like so many great friends in that environment that we got to
Right.
make some music with. Phil Dimmel from Machine Head, the Aranda guys, Corey Glover from Living Color,
Hmm.
Jason from Five Finger Death Punch, and Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. Like it was really cool to just you know be so involved.
How did like to find the right singers and right performers for some songs? Some singers' voices don't always work with certain songs, whether they're a good singer or not, because they have their own style. Picking out the songs and put the song list together, who put that all together? And so far in advance that you guys were ready, like because watching it
Yeah,
seems flow it's like a flow seamless. The artists sound
yeah,
great with the songs. You know what I mean?
yeah.
The voices are great. You
So
never know.
I don't have a lot of call on choosing tunes. I don't have a lot of call on choosing artists. Like that's an upper management decision, as I like to call it. It's like that's the guys that actually put on Shiprocked.
Yeah,
I'm brought in to just make the set really work. I'm brought in to think about uh, who's going to be playing which guitar part in songs
yeah,
that have multiple guitar parts. Like that's kind of like again like a band leader. Like I was basically a band leader, a musical
right.
director. So I appreciate the kind words about the flow because that is my responsibility to make sure that it flows really well. But yeah, it's fun because artists will choose tunes that like one of the sets was themed after the 90s, right? So we were doing
Which is
like off
interesting to see.
yeah, we were doing like Offspring and Kid Rock and early 2000s and doing like Nookie by Limp Bizkit and all this stuff. So it was fun to see who would choose what. Lacey from Flyleaf did Weezer, Buddy Holly. And I was like, oh, the Flyleaf girl knows Buddy Holly. And so we get there and she runs this killer, right? The young lady, Christina from Toledo, did Offspring and
Yeah, that sounded
the
good.
and it
Yeah,
was awesome. She crushed it. So Davey Suicide and Mixie, they both did Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson.
yep.
And it was really cool. Yeah, you could just jump over to YouTube to my channel and see the highlight reel from some of that. It was really fun, and I'm pleased to say that we're back in the saddle for next year. So if for those that are interested, shiprock.com, we'll have the artist list and everything for next year's cruise, and we'll be doing the stowaways thing again. So
I may have to make it one of these years. I don't know. I get past my fear of the ocean and sharks, but yeah, that's a separate thing. It's a separate issue for me and a psychiatrist, but that's no. But yeah, it was fantastic. And I always wondered how it was put together because obviously someone's thinking also vocally how it's going to work. 'Cause jams don't always work. Superstar jams don't always work if it's impromptu. It can be a hot mess. So,
well, I mean, on the flip, that's the benefit of having guys like Phil Dimmel and Jason Hook and Corey
right.
Glover. These guys are improvisers. Like if you look at Jason Hook and nod,
Yep.
he's going to take a monster solo, like Bumblefoot. Like we did it with Bumblefoot, and Ron's one of my dudes. Like I love that guy. I love that guy's playing. He's one of my favorite players and favorite dudes. And you can look at that guy and be like Shred, and he's going to just tear it to pieces. So there is the flip side of that, where it's like we're dealing with guys that can that
Pros,
can
yeah.
roll, yeah, that can throw down. So
But Corey was doing what? Was he doing Word Up?
yeah,
Yeah, that
Corey
was
did
awesome.
Word Up, and Jason took a nasty solo on that was completely improvised, and yeah, it was killer. Phil's a nasty good guitar player too, so
You have, and we're round to wrap up, so you should really give you back your time. But I want to say, you have something coming up though. Uh, big guitar event, August, right? Is it?
yeah, my guitar event,
Let's talk about
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's a really fun special thing, and it's called the Woodshed Guitar Experience. I'll just tell you about what it is. It's a
Please.
4 day, 3 night weekend. That's it's 6 to 7 of the best guitar players on the planet, and you spend. We limit it to 100 people in attendees, so it's a very VIP premium
Wow.
type of. Yeah, because here it's twofold, right? The number one thing is like every person that's attending this as a camper, they don't have to stress about, am I going to get a chance to talk to him? Am I going to be able to get him to sign my pick guard? There's only 100 people there. You got 4 days. Like, you're eating breakfast with these dudes. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like all the time in the world. Now, on the flip side, from the artist perspective, because I've done a lot of these events, is the other side of it, right? You don't feel overwhelmed, like you're looking out into a sea of 2,000 people and you're like, I'm never going to be like, how am I going to make a connection with these people that are spending this money to do this thing?
Hmm.
So it's really about the VIP experience, like it really is. Now, with that said, let me just rattle off some names of
Go
people that
for
have
it.
done it in the past. Joe Bonamassa, Robin Ford, Andy Timmons. We got Andy Timmons coming back this year. We got Mark Lettieri, Brent Mason. We've had Nick Johnson. We've had Tosin Abasi. And this year, I'm so excited to say that one of my biggest influences, Eric Johnson, will be there this year. So
Nice.
it is just magnificent if you're a guitar fan. And we are quickly selling out, and we haven't even done our press release yet. So if you're interested in this type of event where you can spend 4 days learning from the greatest guitar players that I can wrangle. And I mean, these are living legends. Like Eric Johnson is a living legend. And like I said, we had Robin Ford, same thing. It's like he's telling stories about playing with Miles Davis and stuff. It's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. Really cool moment is Robin let every camper play through his Dumble and his like. I was just like, holy crap! This is like once in a lifetime chance to be like, yeah,
Wow.
I was playing through Robin's like Dumble number two. Like the second amp that Alex Dumble built was for Robin, and he brought it to the camp because he lives in Nashville. And the event's right outside of Nashville. It's on a private property. We don't do it at like a Hyatt or a Marriott. No
Right.
offense to Hyatt or Marriott. Like, I love those
No, but it
hotels,
looks
but
pretty. It looks very. It
we,
looks nice.
we own the property. And so we have all these nice cabins. We've got, we bring in a full line array rig, and included in your package, that when you buy in to come to it, you get 3 nights of concerts. So obviously you're getting concerts by the artist, but you're
Yeah.
also getting full day of lessons, like one-on-one lessons. We break it down into small groups. So you're in a group with like 18 to 20 other people, and like it's just you and Joe Bonamassa or whoever it might be that year. Like
Right.
this
Right.
year,
The
it's
time. Right. Right.
like, and again, the full roster this year is a young player named Seth Rosenblum. Obviously, I've mentioned Eric a lot. Mark Lettieri is coming back from Snarky Puppy. Brent Mason will be back. Greg Koch will be back. Andy Timmons will be back. It's going to be insane. And so we also, one of the other things with having all this Avengers level lineup of guitar players, we can reach into to all the manufacturers that make our gear, and the
Hmm.
manufacturers come and bring gear, and we do giveaways. Like we give away, it's all like last year we gave away Mark Lettieri's signature PRS. Like we do
Wow.
like really, really cool stuff, just because, like I said, it's just such a controlled. It reminds me of like going to NAMM and the after parties that people will be like, oh, did you see the Ibanez after party where like Satriani was jamming and Billy Gibbons got up on stage or what? Like that's the kind of environment where we just built and controlled because, due to pandemic, NAMM wasn't happening. So I put together this labor of love, and I just wanted to build the event that a 19-year-old me would have killed somebody to go to.
It seems really reasonable looking at the prices online too, and like the
Oh yeah.
cabins look beautiful. Like it actually seems like you guys are. I don't know how you guys are going to pay for everything, for the prices you guys are charging. Really, on the
Yeah,
outside,
yeah.
it
Again,
feels
we
like it's
sell it
really
kind of like you
fair.
do a cruise. We sell it like when you pay in, we bring in a chef, like a really incredible chef, and then all your alcohol is paid for if you like to drink. Your lodging's covered, all your lessons are covered. Like I said, the manufacturer's there. You don't have to bring anything. I mean, like
That's what I'm
it's
saying. It's crazy. The prices look like it would actually be like a cruise, and then have like 14 also guitar players there on top of it. Like it doesn't even feel like it's. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah, I
looks
mean,
so
like
good.
when we were putting it together, one of the things that I said, when we were putting it together and I was putting my name on it and working really tightly with John, we're like, let's build a $10,000 to $15,000 event and charge a fifth of that. And that's the business model. It's like, man, we're not trying to get rich off of it. We're trying to have an event that like is mind blowing. That's what
Right.
we're trying to do.
It is. It affords comfort. You always have to pay bills. obviously, but it's very much a fan experience. It's very much a
Fan
musical,
experience.
inspiring experience, and that's just from the outside even going. It feels like it really embraces the musician's love of music and sharing it with the fans. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. It's
and you
really
can't do anything in life for free. I mean, that's just how the world runs. But to have like
well,
great
yeah, and
meals and nice lodging and a vacation, come on.
yeah, and you know, the most important thing is like when I reach out and I pick up the phone, I'm not a booking agent, I'm not a promoter, I'm an artist. So when I pick up the phone and I call my friends in the industry,
Yeah,
I'm not calling them to come to for free. Like I'm like, hey man,
right, exactly.
I want to take care of you. You know, that's
Right.
the thing. I really want everyone to have this really great experience, and it's beautiful because it sits on this like beautiful open front lake. So the first night of the event is a bluegrass concert,
Hmm.
like the night one, because that's how I grew up. So it's always fun to be like, hey, this is how we kick off the event. The Friday night concert is all of the artists doing their favorite covers. No prep. Like we go on stage and we're like, all right, give me all your love and ZZ Top. Let's play it, you know? And there's some killer moments. Like last year, Tom Quell and Mark Lettieri played the Chicken, famous Jocko, you know, arrangement
Yep.
or whatever, and murdered it, right? It's just incredible. Like Andy Timmons is doing like the Queen stuff or the Beatles stuff or whatever. And then Saturday night, everybody's playing like their signature stuff. Like I was playing stuff off of Junktown. Mark's doing the, you know, Goon Squad and stuff like that.
That's awesome, man. That looks really awesome. People check it out. It's on his website.
Yeah.
You got Patreon on there. You do
Yeah.
woodshedding
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Guy Pop on. You've got a lot of stuff going on. People really need to go. It's a full service website that tells you a lot. You know, you offer all kinds of packages and lessons and all kinds of things. So people really, you know, you're full service, really, despite
Yeah.
how busy you are.
I'm just a fan. Like I just love to play music and I love to, you know, do as much as I can for the guitar community, you know, and offer as many things as I can. It's a beautiful technological point that we're at in humanity's existence to where I can make stuff and make videos on the road and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I was telling you before we started recording, like man, I've only been home like 5 or 6 days in February. And it's like the touring with Gary LeVox from Rascal Flatts doing his solo album. You know, we've been to Hawaii, I went to LA and I filmed the NASCAR thing. I don't know who saw that from Fontana. I did a promo out there and it was killer. But yeah, it's the hustle is real. Like it's moving and shaking.
But you always have time for everybody. I mean, as busy as you were, you know, you're like, yeah, we'll get to this. You got time. But we've always been, you know, you are a fan and you're very supportive. And I want to thank you for coming on the show. And I want people to check you out that don't. And I'm excited for the new album too. It's gonna be awesome. Thank you, man.
I'm excited.
I appreciate that. Awesome. Thank you.